computer keys fills your room, but no words appear on the screen. The frustrated tapping of your finger on the keyboard accompanies agitated thoughts. Why did your teacher have to assign this 4-page paper? Why does it have to be on such a boring topic? Why does writing matter anyway? For nearly 15,000 years, multiple forms of writing have influenced our world, from global communications to religion. Today, we will discuss counting tokens, which are considered the first known method of written communication. Impress upon the first style of writing known as cuneiform. Print out how the Egyptian hieroglyphics contributed to the evolution of a writing system. Scroll down to how the Greek and Latin languages allowed for the development of our English language. And lastly, spell out the significance of a writing system. The beginnings of a writing system arose when humans transitioned from hunter-gatherer societies to more stable settlements around 13,000 BC. As stated by World History Modern Times, writing was an important feature in the life of new civilizations. With permanent land, it became necessary for one to count his property, whether that be land, crops, or animals. According to historian.net, it also became necessary to transfer property from one individual to another. Around 5000 BC, humans invented tokens that they used for this purpose. These counting tokens began to be engraved with symbols that represented a record of grain, land, and livestock, and a written language was beginning to develop. These pictures, or pictographs on the stones, originally represented what they were. For example, a swan-like picture meant bird. Over time, certain symbols began to represent an idea or concept. This symbol means God or heaven. Eventually, the pictographs were impressed in clay with a wedge to become the first script known as cuneiform. Cuneiform was developed by the ancient Sumerians of Mesopotamia anywhere from 3500 to 3000 BC, as stated by ancient.eu. These symbols began to represent vocal sounds. These were closer to today's modern word, with symbols for both vowels and syllables. Eventually, the number of characters used in writing was reduced from 1,000 to 600. The fewer characters that people needed to know made it easier to understand the ideas of the writer. To dig deeper into our exploration of the writing system we use today, we need to go to Egypt, where the writing system had developed sometime near the end of the 4th millennium BC. Unlike the cuneiform of the ancient Sumerians, the Egyptian hieroglyphic system had no definitive vowels. According to historian.net, some hieroglyphics were biliteral, meaning they consisted of 2 symbols, and some were triliteral, consisting of 3. Over time, certain hieroglyphics, such as these, became the consonantal sounds. This is the hieroglyphic for R, and these are B, N, and K. This consonantal alphabet of the Egyptians influenced the Proto-Sinai alphabet near 1700 BC. Inscriptions found at mines in the Sinai used fewer than 30 signs. This alphabet was the predecessor to the Hebrew alphabet, in which the Old Testament of the Bible was written. Additionally, the alphabet of the Sinai led to the development of the Greek language. The Greeks took this consonantal alphabet of the Sinai near 750 BC and added vowels. Parts of the New Testament of the Bible were first written in the Greek language. From the Greek language, the Latin alphabet developed. In the 7th century AD, Latin was introduced in Britain by Christian missionaries. Over time, the Latin alphabet was altered. Some letters were added and some were removed. By the year 1011, a formal list of the first English alphabet known as Old English was created. This alphabet contained all of today's modern English letters, apart from J and W. At that time, the letters U and V were considered to be one letter, often used as both a vowel and a consonant. Over time, the Old English letter Win became our letter W, and other Old English letters were discarded. With the introduction of the printing press to Great Britain in the mid-15th century, English became more standardized. Sometime in the 16th century, U and V were split into 2 letters, with U becoming the vowel and V becoming the consonant. In 1604, Robert Carvey published the first English dictionary, the Table Alphabetical. Around that time, the letter J was added to create the modern English alphabet we use today. Look around you. Not only is there writing on posters and papers in this very room, but everything you see was created by someone, somewhere, who thought of an invention. That person wrote out his or her plans to express their ideas. Major religious texts, such as the Islamic Quran, the Jewish Torah, and the Christian Bible were written and passed down through generations. Without writing, it would be virtually impossible to communicate over long distances without having to take long trips to see one another. People love to tell stories. Legends and myths have been passed down for generations. Many are spoken, but most are written. Writing helps keep the original stories just the way they were, no matter how many people read them. We've all been in school at one time or another. We learn most of what we need to know from textbooks or other written sources. Without writing, we wouldn't have access to the knowledge that ordinary people like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs used to create some of the most popular and used technology of the century. Adults like to complain about how kids these days are either too busy texting or on the computers. What they don't understand is that TechSpeak is a writing system of its own. In this world of technology, writing is more prevalent than ever. According to eMarketer.com, 1.73 billion people use social networking sites, such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. These websites, along with email, help people to communicate faster with one another. People are more likely to message a friend on Facebook than they are to sit down and write a letter. Electronic devices, such as smartphones and computers, are programmed with lines of coding, which is mostly made up of letters and numbers. This contemporary style of writing allows for a new type of socialization. Today, we have discussed counting tokens, which are considered the first known method of communication between people. Cuneiform, the first known style of writing, how the Egyptian hieroglyphics contributed to the evolution of a writing system, how English arose from the Greek and Latin languages, and how writing still influences our world. For nearly 15,000 years, writing has developed into the modern language we use today. It began as mere tokens that were simply used for counting property, and evolved into cuneiform. The Egyptian hieroglyphics led to the development of the Greek and Latin languages. Nearly 7,000 years after the creation of the counting tokens, the English language developed. Writing allows for better global communications and technology. Now, go back to that paper. Now that you know where the words you write come from, and how they've contributed to the world as you know it, perhaps you'll appreciate the written language just a little more.